As the manager of Guns N' Roses during the band's debauched heyday, Alan Niven has no shortage of color. The LAPD fetching Axl Rose from his West Hollywood condo and bringing him directly to the stage so Guns N' Roses could open for the Rolling Stones at the going off script and taking a Winnebago for a joyride, and then standing in rush hour traffic and brandishing a bottle of Jack K. Daniels. Wheeler filming the Welcome to the Jungle guitarist Izzy Stradlin carrying a $750,000 cashier's check that Niven had to take from him and hide in his own shoe for safekeeping during a raucous trip. About 15 minutes into a thoughtful Zoom conversation, the garrulous Niven poses a question of his own: why was I managing Guns? Given what he describes, it is a good question. Because nobody else would do it, he says, noting that the band's former management firm could not get away fast enough from the group. No one else would deal with them. Literally, I was not bottom of the barrel, darling, I was underneath the barrel. It was desperate. Case in point, his very first Guns N' Roses band meeting. On the way into the house, Niven says, he passed by a broken toilet and one of the better-known strippers from the Sunset Strip. Stradlin and Slash were the only ones who'd shown up. Once the meeting started, Stradlin nodded out at the table and Slash fed a little white bunny rabbit to a massive pet pie. And I'm sitting there going, keep your cool. This may be a test. Just go with it and get through gauge it. But that was my first GNR meeting. These kinds of stranger-than-fiction anecdotes dominate Niven's wildly entertaining, and occasionally jaw-dropping, new book, Sound and Fury, Rock and Roll Stories. With brutal honesty and vivid imagery, he describes the challenges of wrangling Guns N' Roses before and after the band's 1998-7 debut, Appetite for Destruction. These include mundane business matters, like shooting music videos on a budget, and more stressful moments, such as navigating Rose's mercurial moods and ensuring that band members didn't take drugs on international. But Sound and Fury also focuses extensively on Niven's time managing the bluesy hard rock band Great White, whose lead singer, the late Jack Russell, had his own struggles with severe addiction. To complicate the entanglement, Niven also produced and co-wrote dozens of the band's songs, including hits Rock Me and House of Broken Love. Niven mixes delightful bits of insider gossip into these harrowing moments, fearing G for bad behavior. Future superstar director Michael Bay from filming Great White's Call It Rock and Roll music video, Berlin's Terry Nunn sending President Reagan an 8x10 photo with a saucy message, clandestinely buying Ozzy Osbourne drinks on an airplane behind Sharon Osbourne's back. And his lifelong passion for championing promising artists also comes through, including his recent advocacy for guitarist Chris Buck of Cardinal Black. Unsurprisingly, Niven says people had been asking him for decades to write a book. If I had $1 for every time somebody asked me that, I'd be living in a castle in Scotland. He resisted because of his disdain for rock and roll books. To me, they all have the same story arc and only a magazine editor paid him such a huge compliment that he finally felt compelled to write. He said, I wish I could write like you, Niven says. When he said that, it put an obligation in me that I couldn't shake. Now I had to be intelligent about it and go, you hate rock and roll books, so what are you going to? Niven's solution was to eschew the usual boring, chronological history and structure Sound and Fury more like a collection of vignettes, all told with his usual dry sense of humor and razor sharp. If you tell the stories well enough, they might be illuminating, he says. I saw it more as a record than I did a book. And you hope that somebody will drop the needle in at the beginning of the record and stay with the record until it's. For me, dialogue was key, and, fortunately, they were all more up than I was, he adds. So my memory of the dialogue is pretty good. There's some dialogue exchanges in there that imprinted themselves for as long as. One of the artists that doesn't get much ink in Sound and Fury is another group known for its hedonistic rock and roll behavior. Niven promoted and facilitated distribution of the independent release of the band's 1981 debut, Too Fast for Love, and helped connect Motley Crue with Elektra Records. He doesn't mince words in the book or in conversation about the band, saying he feels very ambivalent about the small role I played in the progression of Motley Crue because I know who they are. I know what they've done to various people. I know how they've treated certain numbers of women. And I am not proud of contributing to that. And on top of that, someone needs to turn around and say, It's a thin catalog that they produced, in terms of what they produced as music, he continues. There's not much there, and it's certainly not intellectually or spiritually illuminating in any way, shape or form. They are brutish entertainers, and that's it. Still, Niven says he didn't hesitate to include the stories that he did in Sound and Fury, and by explanatory notes a conversation he had with journal. He sent me an email the other day saying, "Welcome to the Club of Authors," he recalls. And I'm going, yeah, right. You've been doing it all your life. I'm just an enthusiastic amateur. And he said, "Welcome to the club, and by the way, it's Niven pondered what that meant. A little light bulb went on in my head, and I went, ah, yes, the curse is truth, because a lot of people don't want to hear the truth and don't want to hear what truly happened. There are people in the Axel cult who won't be happy. There will be one or two other people who won't be happy, but there's no point in recording anything unless it's got." Niven says when the book was done, he didn't necessarily gain any surprising insights or new perspectives on what he had documented. The fact that people are still interested in what you've got to say about things that happened 30 years ago is almost unimaginable, he says. I never used to do interviews back in the day. But at this point, it would just be graceless and rank bad manners not to. Occasionally people go, "Oh, he's bitter," Niven continues. No, I am not. I don't think the book comes off as bitter. Many times I've said it was actually a privilege to go through that period of time because I didn't have to spend my life saying to myself, I wonder what it would have been like to have had a #1. To have had a successful band. Well, I found out. Niven stresses firmly that management was more than a job to him. It was my way of life, he says. People who go into management and think it's a job that starts maybe at about 10:30 in the morning once you've had your coffee and then you check out at 6, they're not true managers. They're not in management for the right reasons, he adds. Rock and roll is a way of life. It's 24/7, 365. And that was my approach.